So welcome back to the video, and we're going to get started with the tutorial right away. So for this tutorial, I'm using the blank project in Unreal Engine 5 to create our Tetris game. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up our content drawer and make sure we are in the content folder over here. Right click, select level, and we're going to create a new level. So I'm going to call this Tetris level and open this up. So when you create a brand new level, by default, there would be nothing over here. As you can see in our outliner, there is nothing in here. So to actually see something, we need to add some lighting. And there's a cool little tool in Unreal Engine that you can use to quickly add some lights. So under Window, we have this option called Environment Light Mixer. So we're going to open this up. So with this tool or window, we can quickly add some lighting into our level. So I want to add some skylight, some directional light, sky atmosphere, and some height fog. I don't really need the volumetric cloud, so I'm going to leave that and close it. And there we go. We have our lighting over here, so we can actually see something in our level now. Also in our outliner, I'm going to try organizing all of our lighting over here into a separate folder. So I'm just going to call it lighting. You can press shift to select all of these over here and drag them into the lighting folder. And it's best to organize our lighting in a separate folder so everything looks a lot less confusing this way. So after that, we're going to try optimizing the performance of our project over here. And there are a couple of things that we can easily do to improve our performance. So the first thing I'm going to do is disable the real-time viewport over here. So this means our viewport, that is this screen over here, is no longer updating in real time. And for this Tetris game, we don't really need a real-time viewport. So it's just affecting our performance unnecessarily. It's not necessary for you to do this, but if you want to, you can do that. After that, I'm going to change the viewport scalability to the lowest settings. As you can see, it's already at the lowest setting over here. Again, we are making a low poly Tetris game. We don't really need all that performance. So I just set the entire thing to the lowest setting over here. And yeah, those are some really simple and easy fixes to kind of improve the performance of your game. After you're done with that, we are going to create a new actor blueprint. And I'm going to call this BP playfield. Open this up. And in here, we're going to navigate to components and click on add over here. And after that, we're going to select cube. I'm going to drag this cube over here on top of this default scene root over here, thereby making this the new root of this playfield over here. And basically what we have done is that we have made this cube as the origin of this blueprint over here. So yeah, we are done with this blueprint. Compile this and save it. So yeah, coming back to our level over here, I'm going to drag this BP playfield into our level. And over here in our details panel, make sure that you have selected this all option over here. By default, Unreal will try to sort the information, so it can be a bit confusing if you're new. So what we need to modify about this blueprint over here is its location. So under transform, location, I'm going to click on this icon over here to reset its location. So currently it's at the origin of this entire world over here. You can also call it the center of this world. So to now duplicate this, I need you to press the Alt key and then move the cube in one of the axes. So I'm going to move it in the Y axis like this. And you can see it creates a new cube over here. Once again, press on the Alt key and then move the cube. You can easily duplicate the blueprints or our cubes quite easily this way. And one thing you can notice right now is that we have an issue. And the issue is that we can't really differentiate the cubes from each other. And this can be a bit of a problem. So to fix this, we're going to add a material to this cube over here, and that material will highlight the edges of these cubes over here, so we can actually differentiate the cubes from each other, just like in the demo that I have created. So I'm going to go back to the content drawer, and then I'm going to create a new material, and I'm going to call this Tetris cube material. Open this up. So in here, I'm going to right click and search for vector parameter. So select this, and we're going to call this color. So a parameter allows us to change the values inside a material. So since we are using a vector parameter over here, we can dynamically change the color of the material in real time or in our viewport without having to recompile this entire material each time we change it. I'm going to connect to the base color of our material. And with this, we can already change the color of our material in real time. So if I were to double click on here, you'll get this view over here where you can just change the color of your material however you want it. And for us to highlight the edges of our cube more easily, I'm using this texture over here. So I'm going to drag this over here, and it will automatically create a texture sample. So I want you to recreate the material just like this. And some of you might be confused as to how you create this node over here. So for this node, you have to right click and search for constant. So that way you have this node over here. And after that, we're going to right click over here and select the convert to parameter option over here. I'm going to name this intensity. So I'm going to set the default value to 5 over here. And over here in our preview window, I'm going to change our mesh to something like a cube. So it's just like the viewport, you can just move the left mouse button around. So to actually see something, I'm going to change the color of this material. And you can see the edges of our cube are a lot more highlighted now. So our material is now working. So now we have to click on apply, and it will take some time to actually apply it, and then click on save, and we can now close it. And after that, we are going to create an instance of the material we just created. So back in our content drawer, right click on the material and then select create material instance, and this basically creates a copy or a child of this parent material. And using a material instance, we can modify the values of the parameters we have made in our parent material. So opening up our material instance, in our details panel, we have this heading called parameter groups, and if I were to click on this arrow icon, we can open up the parameters we have created in our parent material. So click on this checkbox over here to allow us to modify the values in it, and I'm also going to change our preview to a cube. And now if I were to change the color, you can see it kind of reflects over here just like in our parent material. And if I were to change the intensity, you can see it highlights the edges of our material. And after that, in our content drawer, we're going to open up the BP playfield that we have created just before. In the components tab, click on cube, and you will have this option over here called materials. I'm going to drag the material instance that we have created into this element field over here, and immediately you can see our cube now looks different. It actually reflects the color that we have set up over here. Now back in our level, all of our cubes have changed their colors. I can actually drag this window of our material instance like this, and we're going to try changing the color of it in real time. And you can see immediately the color of our cubes over here are also changing along with it. So this is what I have meant by real-time modification of our material. After that, we're going to continue duplicating our cubes So I want a 12 by 12 by 16 grid of cubes. So I want 12 in the x-axis, 12 in the y-axis, and 16 in the z-axis. And currently I'm making the cubes for the y-axis. And you can tell that by looking at this gizmo over here, which is at the bottom of our viewport. And this gizmo is really nice. It enables us to tell which direction we are looking at. And I forgot to mention this, but we can actually move the pieces by 100 a lot faster by changing the value of the grid snap over here. So when we normally move our cubes, it moves by 10 units. We can change this by changing the value of the grid snap to 100. And now if I were to move the pieces, you can see it's moving by 100. You can tell that by looking at the transform location value in the y-axis over here. And with this, we can easily duplicate our cubes and create a bunch of cubes over here. So we have 12 cubes in the y-axis right now. And to create 12 cubes in the x-axis, I'm going to select all of these cubes over here. And I guess an even faster way to select all these cubes over here is by clicking on this button over here to change our perspective to something like top over here. And to make this easier to view, we can change this option over here from wireframe to lid. And this gives us a perspective in one specific view. And the benefit of this view is that we can do area selection. Whereas in perspective, you can't do area selection over here. So by changing our camera view, we can do area selection and then go back to perspective and duplicate the entire row. Actually, we're duplicating our lighting system as well. So let's quickly select all of our lighting over here and then drag them out of the way. And now if we were to select all of our cubes again and duplicate them, you can see we duplicated an entire row of cubes. Likewise, we're going to do this again until we have 12 rows of cubes in the x-axis. We're going to keep duplicating. So now we have a 12 by 12 grid of cubes. So now we're going to add some boundary to our playfield so that our pieces don't actually move outside of this playfield over here. So for that, I'm going to click on this icon over here, navigate to shapes and choose this cube over here. I'm going to drag this into our level like this, and then we're going to scale it. The placement of our border doesn't really matter all that much. All we should make sure is that this border doesn't really go beyond this cube over here. It doesn't go inward into our playfield. Otherwise, it can cause all kinds of unnecessary issues. And after that, just like we have done before, I'm going to duplicate it and put it at this edge over here. So just change the values over here to make sure our borders are all aligned. After that, we're going to scale this in the z-axis. So I'm going to change the value of this to 16. So yeah, just like this. I'm going to select all these boundaries over here and do the same thing. Again, the height of our boundary doesn't really matter. So even if it's a bit too tall, it's not a big issue since it doesn't interfere with our grid inside. So yeah, that's really about it. We have created our playfield. And that's it for this video. In the next part, we will make each of our pieces and get that to spawn inside our playfield and more. So yeah, that's really about it for this video. Thanks for watching and see you later. Bye.